hello.
Hi everybody, Tunes91. This is going to be my first ever podcast type style video and my first ever kind of movie review. Although I would say this is kind of a subgenre of that, since it's kind of just going over some favorites. It's not necessarily a review in specific, but...
Yeah, and since it's mostly just going to be us actually talking about whatever our favorites are and stuff like that.
So, since top 10s and whatever tend to be favorites amongst the YouTube world, I figured we would each choose three from the category of favorite film and favorite television series, and kind of go off of that and kind of discuss the reasons why we love each so much, and have fun with it.
By the way, I'm Adam.
This is Adam.
Just going to throw that out there.
He's going to be on my channel quite often. He's helping me make these videos. You're going to see some new faces. We're going to kind of do some podcast type style things with both the designer world, like fashion and whatnot, and with nerdy things like film and books and manga and anime and video games. Video games. So we hope that you enjoy this first video, because we don't know anything about it just yet. So here we go. Launch.
And
haha, here's a toast to you. So let's start off with film.
Alright.
To give you some backstory, we both are students in college that are going for
some form of media.
Some form of media. Mine is more of the advertising aspect of things and PR and whatnot, although I tend to write quite a bit. I've been published a few times, so I love writing and acting, and he's more of the video aspect.
Yeah, a little bit more design on top of that, but yeah, definitely focusing on the video and editing. Editing is huge.
Right. Huge.
Huge, Rochester.
So we love film and television and anything like that. I mean, I love dissecting these kinds of things and getting lost in a story, getting lost in characters that you can relate to. Its character arcs are wonderful, and they've helped me kind of develop who I am as a person. I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but when you find something you can relate to like that helps you through tough times in your life and whatever else, and can kind of like help you come to terms with who you are, I guess, because you can relate to who these pop culture figures are. I don't know, it's just a part of your life, I guess.
Well, it gives you this feeling that you can't find anywhere else. This
right.
kind of like, it hits a deeper chord, like especially as we start going through some of my movies and TV shows. It's just like something there that just hits me that just doesn't hit anywhere else.
Yeah, and I mean, just to give you guys an example of what a nerd I am, I'm sitting here with tattoos. This is Ryuk from Death Note, and I have...
The movie, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, not the movie. The
yeah,
Netflix movie
the
was
Netflix movie?
Absolute trash. Please, God, help us. Tokyo Ghoul. I just got a tattoo from The Last of Us. I love that game.
The Netflix movie? Oh, wait.
So, we love pop culture. We love diving into these kinds of genres of things, of film and video games and whatnot. So, to kick it off, what is your third... We're going to go from least...
We're going third.
Yeah, you got to say first for last.
Fight Club.
We have the same third.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Alright.
we don't know what each other's list is.
I may have accidentally glanced at your top one, and then I realized, oh wait, that's his list. I need to not look at that. But we'll get into that in a minute.
So, Fight Club, directed by David Fincher. Why do you love it?
I honestly don't really know. I mean, like the plotline. I think really what gets me is just the ending, like just having it, the way it all comes together at the end, and like just the way that combines with the song "Where's My Mind." Like, and
we're gonna try not to spoil things for you either, like plots, in case you haven't seen these films.
But just like, cause the way that song and like the whole thing culminates in this whole grand finishing this arc, just. That's what gets me, especially because I love that song, and partially because of that movie, partially not, and yeah, so that's the main thing.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's my third too, so I may as well just interject. I am such a fan of David Fincher. I mean, that guy can do no wrong. We'll forgive him for Alien 3 since he didn't really get much say in that, but you know, anywhere from Fight Club to Social Network to The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, guy is amazing. And his way of directing one of my favorite novels ever by Chuck Palahniuk, with one of my favorite actor, actually two of my favorite actors. You got Brad Pitt and Edward Norton, who I wish he was doing more work, and they are just such a presence on film that is kind of unlike anything I've really seen, in kind of the way that they, it's like a relationship with a parent almost, like a teenager with a parent, loves him, hates him, loves him, hates him. It's a roller coaster ride of emotion between the two of them throughout the whole film.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the way that those two interact, and then Marla Singer, and it's just watching a divorce happen almost, but all within this one character. And for that, I mean, the grittiness of it, the satire of it, it's just such a great statement on the way society kind of works in America. And I love it for that. I mean, it's kind of technically black humor. It's like a black comedy mixed with drama almost, you know, with its satire. Love that film, and it's beautifully shot too. Very, very dark.
Just want to watch the world burn.
Want to watch the world burn. So we're coming at your number 2 spot for film.
So, this is where it gets interesting, because I know that you disagree with this pick. The Prestige.
Oh, jeez.
I realized. I think the acting is on point for Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale. Just nailed their roles, especially Christian Bale in that whole movie. But really what it comes down to is just the smallest little things that it throws in, for especially dialogue. Yeah. The writing for that movie is just, it's so good. Like, because it's one of those movies where, because they throw these small things and these small hints through the entire film, that every time you watch it, you catch something new, and like that catching something new is just, it's so sweet. It's so satisfying.
It is fun when you can watch a film multiple times and pick up new things each time.
I think that might be one of my most watched films. You know, even though we're talking about film and stuff like that, I'm notorious for having not seen a lot of these like classic, really good films, and so. Tunes here, as I'm going to say. Tim has been helping me kind of fix that, because it's needed to be fixed for quite a while. And, I forget what I was saying with that. But yeah, like, all of these classic films and stuff, but that was one I've seen, and I've probably seen the most times, because I've probably seen that upwards of a dozen times at this point, and it's one of my favorite movies to show someone, especially because if you're in a group of people, and you and someone else has seen it, yeah. And then no one else has, you're just sitting there the whole time like, that line is so good because of later. Like,
right.
And, I don't know, the dialogue is especially what gets me with that.
And I can agree, I mean, with his choice, you know, that would never be even close to my top 100 even, but I could see the allure to the film and the style of the film and whatnot. And I'm such a fan of Christopher Nolan, too.
I do love also the setting. That gets
the setting's very cool, in the time period and whatnot.
Because it's like 1800s London, like,
yeah, everything very aesthetic in that way too, and pretty dark.
Yeah, no, it's kind of got a gloomy vibe to it the whole time, which kind of also plays into each character, because the characters are all just not well throughout the entire time. They're just very fixated on whatever they're focused on, and it kind of puts that gloom and how much that, you know, hurts the characters around them to try to be big.
Have I shown you Memento?
Oh yeah. I like it. Well, no, I don't think you showed it to me. I watched it though.
Memento is definitely my favorite by Christopher Nolan by far. It's actually one of my favorite movies ever. But you know,
I really liked it, and then halfway through, I was like, "All right, this is getting old." And then a little bit past that, I was like, "Oh, I'm back in. Let's go."
Yeah,
like,
reels you right back in.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, now they're putting those twists in."
Yep. Yeah, I love Christopher Nolan. But yeah, I mean, and Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale, both
that combo,
very, very, very good actors.
Yeah. Also, Michael Caine is arguably one of my favorite actors.
Michael Caine's great, and Christopher Nolan uses him for freaking everything.
Yeah, and so having him in that movie just makes me happy. Plus, the way they start and end that movie, they use the same monologue by Michael Caine, and I really love that monologue.
How they kind of loop back around.
Well, both how they loop back around, but just on its own, that monologue is really cool.
My number 2 choice is Drive by Nicholas Winding Refn.
Very good movie.
And everything about that film, I make my own films as well. I have been blessed with a lot of crew members that have put in a lot of time and whatnot with me to kind of make my screenplays come to life, and Adam's included in that crew. And I've definitely been inspired by his style. If you haven't seen any films by him, definitely check out Drive, Neon Demon, Only God Forgives, Bronson. He is... What I love about him in this film in particular is he does not hold back. He very much makes what he wants to make, and I feel like in this particular case, it's a little bit more subdued so that a wider audience could enjoy it. So we have the action of it, we have the heart of it, the metaphorical use, and the whole film is so beautiful, and the way it's shot, the colors, everything. And God, I am a Ryan Gosling fanboy. I love... The guy can do no wrong.
Well, and when you're talking colors, if you look at Neon Demon, that's... The color of that movie is just so amazing.
Yeah.
That, that he knows what he's doing with it. And then looking at Drive, it's I think it's more subtle, but just as good, and if not better, in some ways with it.
Everything about that particular film, if you haven't seen Drive is one of those films where on the surface level, you don't have to be an intellectual to enjoy it, but if you love reading, digging deeper, if you don't want to just have it's good for a popcorn movie as well as digging deeper. So there's the surface level of enjoyment, and then every single thing that happens in that film is meticulous, and there's a driving force behind it, there's a metaphor behind it. I mean, the scorpion jacket, the story of the scorpion and the frog, how the scorpion does what he's his own worst enemy because it's in his nature to be who he is.
I want that jacket.
That's a nice jacket. And just everything about that whole story is just so beautiful, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a good one.
A wonderful love story, too, really.
Let's change it up. What's your top? I think I know it. Well, I know it. I saw the paper, but I knew it beforehand.
Change my... what's my top what? Film?
Yeah. Awful movie.
I'd hate to be cliche about it, but Pulp Fiction.
It's awful. I hate it. I hate
Pulp
the movie.
Fiction. You're trying to trigger me.
Oh, absolutely. I still, to this day, have not seen it.
Unfreaking believable. Pulp Fiction, Quentin Tarantino, my God. Now, granted, I will say, his recent films, Hateful Eight, I really did enjoy Hateful Eight, but it's not nearly his strongest work, in my opinion.
I just bought that. I need to watch it.
It's a really good... I mean, it's still great. It's Quentin Tarantino. It's a great film.
Yeah.
And Inglourious Basterds was fun, but a little drawn out here and there. But I love older Tarantino. I loved Reservoir Dogs. Pulp Fiction is my all-time favorite film. Every time I watch it, I'm never bored of it. His dialogue, he's the king of dialogue.
Oh, absolutely. Dude, talking dialogue. Go to Reservoir Dogs. That, most of the movie.
A film that solely rests on dialogue. Yeah.
The opening scene of that movie just, reels you in immediately, and all it is 12? Not even 12. What number of guys sitting around a table?
Yeah, it's
in a
8
diner?
or whatever.
Yeah, hateful. They're hateful. just talking for 5 minutes, and it reels you in.
But Pulp Fiction is so that times whatever amount. There's so many quotable moments in that film, and the amount of gratuitous violence that is also kind of it's there for a purpose. It's not just gratuitous violence for the sake of gratuitous violence. And
is it poetic gratuitous violence?
I would say yeah. I mean, and he's very poppy. A lot of pop culture. A lot of people would say that they're not as impressed with Tarantino because he steals ideas from other people. But really, he just loves to use pop culture, especially from other cultures. He loves the Asian culture. He loves kung fu movies, and he tries to incorporate that in any way that he can.
There's some Jackie Chan up in there.
Yeah, Kill Bill, But
I haven't seen Kill Bill, so I don't know.
Oh, you're breaking my heart. But Pulp Fiction is definitely my number one favorite. I absolutely love the characters, Vincent Vega and Jules, and everything about how that film unfolds and how it was the first film I watched. I think I was in 7th grade when I saw it for the first time, where the story starts at a different place than where it ends. So it goes from point A to point B, and then ends in the middle. So like the beginning, and then the middle is actually the end, and then the end is the middle. So it's just an interesting way that the story unfolds. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll add some sound effects in there.
Yeah. Right. What's your number one?
Oh,
Yeah,
you know my number one.
Yeah.
You're gonna hate me for it. I think it's partially just due to it being very new and fresh for me. That probably is playing a strong factor in why it's my favorite. But it's the audio, the movie Baby Driver. It gets me.
Baby Driver. If you didn't hear that.
I will speak up. I don't know. I'm very much an audio person. Like Tim was mentioning earlier, how I help with some of the short films. I tend to take over a lot of the audio roles with them. Either throwing in little sound effects that really sell it, or trying to fix some of the dialogue audios that either aren't there at all or are rough.
And there's a film that we're doing called Dark Chamber, where he's basically mastered all of the voiceover. There's a lot of voiceover in it, so mixing that,
Yeah, and so when you look at Baby Driver, that's like the pinnacle right now in my mind of audio-driven movie. Like that is, the audio is figured out first. Like the songs, and all of just the song choices, even the sound effect choices as well, and then
the story is written around it.
Yeah. And it's like it's amazing to me. And like the one scene of him just walking to get coffee is just. I mean, it gets
the first time
he
gets coffee, like the 15 minutes in or whatever.
The big scene of it. I don't even think it's 15. I think it's like 5, 10.
Well, after the initial opening, that's whatever, however long.
Yeah, but just like not only is the music driving it, not only is everything to the beat, and there's just like natural sounds thrown in that go with it. They even throw the lyrics randomly into it. If you pay a lot of attention to that scene, you'll see a good number of the lyrics on like telephone poles and the graffiti.
Yeah. You might say that the sound effects and the music are Baby Driving it.
I wouldn't. But yeah.
You think the darkness is your ally, Baby Driver. No, I liked Baby Driver a lot. It was a lot of fun, very high energy.
It definitely leans more towards popcorn movie. I will give it that. That it's definitely more popcorn movie. It's much less like this great epic of cinema.
Right.
But I'm so focused on audio. Like I originally when I started going to college, I started as an engineering major. I switched and was going to be an audio engineering major. And decided not based off our college and stuff and how they operate that, but because the audio will always be. Well, I have no idea what I was saying. Baby Driver, favorite movie right now, popcorn movie, but that's fine. All right, third tries the charm here.
A little bit of a technical error there.
It's almost like I'm not doing my job well.
Baby Driver.
Hey, I love it. I don't remember my reasons. I don't know what I was saying. So, moving on. I love the movie. Audio's cool. I like audio. TV shows.
TV shows. What is your third favorite television series?
See, this was going to be my twist. The Office.
I love The Office.
I know, but it was going to be my twist. Was like, third one isn't at all cinematic. It's just, like, comedy.
It doesn't have to be cinematic.
I know, but it was going to be, yeah. It's actually kind of a tie between The Office and a show called Corner Gas, which
Never heard of that.
It's a Canadian sitcom that occurred for a while. It's the comedy in it I feel like is really clever and stupid while also being very tame, which is kind of an interesting thing to do well. It takes place in freaking Saskatchewan where there's literally nothing happening. Yeah, no, it's I don't know, it's entertaining. But The Office, just because comedically, I love it. It's super nostalgic for me, and even though they do it kind of poorly, they also do it kind of well. Where it's the documentary aspect, like it's very subtle throughout the entire show, and then the way they try to wrap it up is kind of rough, but also kind of good. It's like they did it for what they had available at it, they took like the last, I want to say it was the last season, maybe the last two, where they really tied it back together as being a documentary. It wasn't the best, but like they really did keep with that style the whole time, and that in and of itself is kind of impressive.
Honestly, every time I watch The Office, like binge watch it, I lose interest almost immediately after Michael Scott leaves.
Yeah, no, I mean that's just them trying to save it and keep it going.
Because they won another 3 seasons after that?
I think, yeah, 3, because it was 7, 8, and 9 were all without him. No, you're right. That was very much Steve Carell driven, and so it's like really the biggest point to that show is that show made it because of Steve Carell. That being said, the finale and episode before the finale are both phenomenal.
They are. And, you know, that's not to say all those guys that are, and women...
No, they did a great job.
All wonderful. But it just wasn't the same, you know? You grow attached to a character.
They all were great, but their characters were built around the character of Scott.
Right.
So, like, it's not necessarily those individuals' ability, but it was the limits of the individuals' characters.
And the use of, like, Will Ferrell coming in, I thought that would have been really, really great if it had been, like, he failed and then Scott came back.
I feel like it would have been great if they actually had Ricky Gervais. I think Ricky Gervais could have filled the shoes of Michael Scott just fine. Because he's literally Michael Scott, the British version.
Yeah.
And they even set that up in, like, I want to say it was, like, season 3, maybe it was, like, season 4 or 5. No, I think it was season 5. Crap, but, like, there's, like, a small interaction with him and Steve Carell that's, like, it's like, he's already the next Michael.
Yeah.
But yeah, so The Office comes in at number 3 for me.
The Office is very good.
It's very nostalgic. I think I've watched through, like, 10 times. It's for a long time, it was my show that I threw on while I was falling asleep and just loved listening to their voices and, like, listening to the antics going on that I could picture in my head as it was. So.
It's so funny we have a theme going on here because my third choice is also a comedy that I use very much for the same reason. I mean, I love the writing and I love the acting and I love the concept of the show, and I put it on when I'm doing homework or when I don't know, like you feel lonely or whatever, you're in a bad mood, you just put that on, or you try to go to sleep and whatever and you can't sleep and you put on a TV show. Mine is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
And I adore It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Crap, I don't know how that slipped my mind.
I mean, The Office is a great pick. So
no, it is, but
nothing to shake a stick at. But It's Always Sunny will always kind of have a special place in my heart because I was going through a pretty rough time in my life a couple years ago. I think it was 3 years ago when I was introduced to the show. So it already had like 7 seasons, something like that.
That's good too, because the first couple seasons drag a bit. They're funny. Like
they're great.
The pilot's amazing of that show. They both just joke about race and homosexuality in the pilot of the show.
I know. So it shows you that they are not going to give a single shit.
The entire show, yeah.
But it was mine was also kind of a mixture because I am a really big fan of Shameless too, and it kind of does the same thing for me as It's Always Sunny. It's just that with Shameless, it has everything. It has heart. It has drama. It has comedy. And I feel like there's a lot of moments in that show. I've teared up to that show. Whereas It's Always Sunny is just very much like a feel-good. And I wanted to definitely include just a straight-up feel-good type show that just kind of reminds me of hanging out with my buddies. Now, granted, a lot of the concepts and discussions and things they bring to the surface in that show aren't necessarily always something to like laugh at. I mean, they're serious topics that they make into satire.
Aspects. But then there's an episode where Danny DeVito's just rolling around on the floor covered in Purell saying, "I want to be pure."
Yeah.
So it goes back and forth.
But that's definitely like my feel. That and I fucking love Trailer Park Boys. I'm not gonna deny it.
Trailer Park
Oh
Boys.
my god. And
I've always seen that. That shows up every time in my recommended whenever I watch Sunny.
Yeah.
And I've never watched it. I need to.
Oh my god. I
that.
love. God, rest in peace, Jim Leahy.
So Sunny is also going to be tied for my second now because I forgot about Sunny. And so it's going to be tied with my second one.
So what's your second one?
The crap. What's it called?
Oh yeah, that's good.
I've had a few drinks. The Handmaid's Tale.
Oh, well, I haven't seen that show yet, and it looks really, really good, though.
Yeah, The Handmaid's Tale, the Hulu original series. The main, like, I read the book in actually a literature class previously, and really liked the world it set it in. It's just really interesting. Like, this very odd
It's like a
dystopian-
cult, right?
Kind of. I mean, it's not even cult, because it's the whole government is like this, or not only government, but the whole society is set up this way, so it's more dystopian in a way.
Well, I figured it was like a sanctuary, or like a society
the
that was
whole
sanctioned
US.
off.
It's like the
Okay,
whole
I got
US.
you.
So, yes, but it's more like a whole government. So
Sounds very interesting.
But really, the other big thing with it, because I love that setting, love the storyline, the dialogue's great, but man, the way they use lighting in that show is just, it's, I don't know, I've never seen lighting used as well as I have in that show. Both to show the kind of imprisonment by, like, seeing this very slight lines of light coming through a closed, like, panel on a window, versus just, like, the bokeh that they use with a number of shots too. They really like this a really open aperture, and yeah, no, it's that those are the main reasons it comes in at my number 2. And the actress that plays June just does a phenomenal job. Also, I read once they have a specific lens for that character. They use a very specific lens that's her lens, because to really show that the story is about her. Because it's all focused on this one character, and it's like just little things like that that are really interesting. But yeah, the big one for me is the lighting for it. What's your second?
My second. So you're not going to see Game of Thrones on my list, by the way. I boycott that show.
I've never seen it.
I'm not gonna say boycott it. Oh shit! Here comes the thumbs down.
I'm gonna watch it in like a year or two when no one cares anymore.
I really like Game of Thrones, but it's just I don't know why they're whatever. Anyways, I'm not. And you know, I love The Walking Dead too, but that's very much like a popcorn show to me.
A friend of mine really wants me to watch Game of Thrones, so I might just to appease them. But like,
it's so intricate.
I have a tendency of avoiding the shows that people are like huge on. Like that's why back in the day, Breaking Bad I never watched back then. House of Cards I never watched.
I love House of Cards. Although now there's all this shit revolving around Kevin Spacey, which is very disheartening. But nah. Anyways, my number 2 is very specific. It's not the show as a whole. It's specifically the first season. True Detective.
Crap! I've been meaning to watch that. That's literally been. I heard that the first season is amazing. The second season kind of gets like, eh.
The acting in season 2 is very good, but it's very boring in comparison.
I literally was thinking about that. I'm not even kidding. Within the past 24 hours, of like, I need to watch that, and like I had the time. I was like, I should find a way of watching that, and then I would just watch Bob's Burgers.
True Detective to me is one of those cinematic experiences in television form, and Rust Cole's character is so broken, and yet he still comes out on top with being a hero. He's an anti-hero, and he saves people, and he's dealing with his own shit. And I just love that when you can relate to a character in that way. I mean, we all have our demons, you know, and we all have our own struggles. And
are they neon?
They're neon demons. But I just love Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey. They're back and forth. I was never a huge fan of Matthew McConaughey until I started. When I saw that show, I was like, holy shit, this guy is freaking phenomenal.
I didn't realize it had Matthew McConaughey in it.
That's awesome. Him and Woody Harrelson are the two cops. Very mature show, by the way. Like, lots of sex, lots of violence. There's pedophilia in it. Not amongst the... obviously, it's the case they're working on. So, you know, it's not for the faint of heart, really, but the story and the character arcs are just...
In each different way, I'd imagine every show on our list, maybe minus The Office, is
offensive.
Adult. Yeah, adult and offensive in nature.
yeah, that's true. But that's my second choice. I love that, specifically season 1. I've watched it probably half a dozen times.
We might need to watch that tonight, because I've been meaning to watch that anyway, and as soon as I get started, I won't stop.
Yeah.
So, what's your top one?
Oh, we're gonna go with my top one.
I mean,
my top one
with movies.
Listen,
I know it already.
My top one,
objectively,
is so. I again am such a fan of character, like these stories that I can just get lost in. I literally have a tattoo, okay? And I specifically got this tattoo where Aaron Paul also got the same tattoo in the same font, who plays one of the main characters in the show, which if you already know who Aaron Paul is, you're going to know what I'm going to say. And
Parks and Recreation?
Yeah, Parks and Rec. And the quote is "no half measures," and it was just so relatable. The whole
Big Bang Theory.
Sheldon, the Sheldon
yeah,
spinoff.
The Sheldon character.
The Sheldon spinoff,
yeah,
actually,
young,
with
young
young
Sheldon.
No half measures, Sheldon.
Katie Kuoko's character, right?
Katie.
Is that her name?
No.
I think that's Penny.
Penny, right?
Good
But in any case, Breaking Bad is my number one, and I had to have watched this show 15 times at least, all the way through from start to finish.
It's a good one.
I've cried every single time to specific moments. I find new things. I love the character development. It's honestly a writer's wet dream for a perfect story for a character arc. And with both of them, with both Walter and Jesse, I mean, they're both so good at complementing each other's faults, and this one's good at this, and this one's good at this, and this one's bad at that, and they complement each other so well that it's almost like they're one character, and I just fucking love that show.
I need to finish it. I've only watched the first 3 seasons, is I think where I fell off. And from what I've heard, there's 5. From what I've heard, is it only gets better. Like 4th and 5th are where it's the best.
Well, yeah, but the whole everything about you have to watch how his character obviously changes. And honestly, Breaking Bad is my favorite thing ever made. Period. I mean, including film, including anime, anything.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's absolutely 100% my favorite thing ever made. It doesn't necessarily always have a artistic way of shooting the film itself. I think it's done very well, but cinematography-wise, but the story itself and the character arcs for every one of those characters is just so on point and so perfect that I don't know if I'm ever going to find anything ever again that's going to be so intriguing and loved by me.
You say that, but...
No.
My top one...
No,
okay.
Your top one.
So you know it already.
I do.
It's Robot Chicken. Okay, so my top, which has already been discussed quite a bit between Timothy and myself here, I absolutely adore it. The soundtrack is phenomenal.
Everything about it is phenomenal.
Yeah, and
I won't debate that.
The thing that gets me the most in it is the way they compose a number of their shots. It's it's unique. I haven't seen much else that's done it that way.
Well,
real quick before we get into more of it, it's Mr. Robot. I'm currently behind on season 3, but seasons 1 and 2. Season 1 was amazing. I've seen the pilot like a dozen times, if not more. I won't shut up about it to anyone that I talk to ever. And then season 2 blows season 1 out of the water. I need to see how season 3 has continued to fare with season 2. Anyways.
No, I love Mr. Robot. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It would be in my top 10 at least.
The biggest reason for me is like the composition, like just seeing how they compose shots, and then I'm audio driven. The music and the soundtrack choices are so top notch for that show. Well, and the writing in it is very, very smart, and oh my god, I never thought I would ever say this, but Christian Slater is on. I love point. Christian Slater in that, and I've never known him to be he's always kind of like a B-team actor in a way, and like in this he is such he makes the show. Granted it's Rami Malek that is the show, but he's wonderful too. But Christian Slater makes the show, and it's but the composition is the most interesting part. It's what gives it something different than other shows. My favorite example is there's a shot where 2 of them are talking, and it'll be framed where if I'm on screen, my frame ends here, and I have all this backspace. Yep. And if Tim was talking, it would end here, and he had all this backspace, and it's just no, that's not how it's supposed to be. There's they break all the rules. Yeah, there's in cinematography. there's supposed to be a thing called, was it Nose Room?
Nose Room, yep.
And they basically do the exact opposite. It's like,
it's very interesting.
Nose Room, we're gonna give the mullet room.
But I think they do that. If you watch the show, they do that to make it so that you know that the characters are disconnected from the real reality and are so sucked into their own reality.
Yeah, I was gonna say reality and just each other in general.
Right.
Like it's just this very disconnected. Everyone is very on their own the entire time, whether or not they're working with someone or talking to someone. The specific one that I'm using as an example is the main character talking to this Bible study leader in this one part, and like it definitely indicates this aspect of he doesn't feel connected to them whatsoever.
No, I remember. That was a great episode.
That's the episode, right? I think that's the episode.
Where it gets very animated and starts...
Yeah. Amen! 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 Like, stands up and everything. But,
Hey, fucking man! No, that was a great episode.
But, like, I don't know. The shot composition is really what gets me because they, like Tim said, they break all the rules, basically for no reason. And, except for... that they have every reason to for their own company, like the way that they compose the show.
Phenomenal. I hope you guys all kind of take all our choices into consideration if you haven't seen them, and I hope we didn't spoil too much for you. Some honorable mentions. Let's talk about a couple of honorable mentions. I personally love Weeds. Oh my god, I love Weeds. That's just another one that I kind of flick on for fall asleep to, kind of a deal. And
trying to think of what I didn't
South Park.
Okay. South Park's a good one.
Oh my god, South Park is wonderful.
I mean, Breaking Bad would have been my honorable mention. One of my honorable mentions. If you want to get into like anime stuff, Death Note.
Death Note is one of my favorite things ever made, both the manga and the anime. Not that piece of shit atrocity that is
Watch
the movie.
The movie in particular.
It's absolute trash.
No, the movie's where you watch the movie.
That and I'm a sucker for Sons of Anarchy and The Walking Dead, I'm going to be honest with you. When I want to just kind of zone out and lose myself in a fantastical world that I'm never, ever going to experience or don't know anyone that's ever going to... Obviously, the zombie thing aside, the gang aspect of Sons of Anarchy, we don't know anybody like that, obviously. I've never met anyone that's ever been in a gang or anything, so it's a very interesting world to kind of let yourself get lost in, and I love those shows. Those are just fun shows.
I'm trying to think of what else I've really watched. In all seriousness, I'm gonna say Hogan's Heroes, which is
the Munsters,
which is an ancient reference. Do you know Hogan's Heroes?
I do. Yeah.
I'm so pleased. Like, it's the stupidest show.
Yeah.
Like, because it's straight
What's
up.
his Colonel?
Colonel Clink.
Colonel Clink. Jesus.
And Sergeant Schultz.
Sergeant Schultz.
But like, because that was my childhood. I watched.
Leave it to Beaver.
I mean, I watched that show like a ton. I would be able to tell you, because we had them all on DVD, I would be able to tell you what season, what disc number, what episode number each episode was, because I loved that show. It's so stupid.
Nothing to be ashamed of.
No, I'm very proud of it, obviously, because I'm mentioning it in this video.
I was the same way with the Munsters, and
I watched Elf.
I Dream of Jeannie.
Third Rock from the Sun. Let's go.
Third
Rock from the Sun. Watch a singular episode of that just to see baby Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Like,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt was pretty
he was really good in that show too. But he's a straight up teenager in it.
When I was growing up, when I was a teenager, I loved Nip Tuck. I can't watch that shit for the life of me now, but that was my favorite. Like that and Degrassi, if you ever watched either one of those, were my absolute favorites when I was growing up.
Also, going back to comedy stuff, like Scrubs.
Scrubs was great too.
Just freaking Rowdy alone. Just the stuffed dog.
Zach Braff. Zach Braff all the way.
Or like I will never forget the little gong they had, like, whenever they had sex. Like, I have to hit this gong so that the, like, Turk knows then was, like, just hears it across the world, like, one last honorable mention, going back to movies, because I was talking about young Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Talking about young actors, What's Eating Gilbert Grape is definitely an honorable mention for me, for movies.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What?
He's upsetting me. Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah. Tim's pleased.
With that being said,
you don't need to cough on me.
the wrong pipe. With that being said, I hope you guys all enjoyed our first little podcast type style video, kind of revolving around film and TV series and whatnot. We're gonna actually I will specifically review some of these, and then we will do more podcast discussions where we review them together with certain ones as well. And we're gonna do the same exact theme with, like I said, video games probably will be a big one where it's more podcast style. And then I'll individually review some of my favorite manga with you, and we'll kind of take it from there.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I will say the top 3 gaming list, unfortunately, will be much more difficult for me.
Well, no, actually, I know my top 2. Either way, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will be seeing you all very soon.
Bye.
Take care.